So cardio versus weight training for fat loss. Now, tell me if this sounds familiar to you. Oh, I don't want to jump into the gym until I get fit enough, or I think I'm going to go start running so that I can go train in the gym. Whilst I totally respect people's decisions as to when they start exercising or why, and the psychology underlying it is probably not for this video, what we have to do is pay attention to the physiology that is going on so that we can make sure that these people are making the right choices to helping them get the most effective fat loss. So which one would you be choosing, cardio or weight loss? A cool study in 2012 did just that. The researchers tested 3 different arms of aerobic training, weight training, and combined aerobic and weight training. And the goal was to find the optimal mode of fat loss for the overweight or obese patient. The study was done with an 8-month time frame, 4 months of a run-in time frame to help those that weren't going to stick to the program to drop out. And once they were identified, the people that were left over were much more likely to follow the study all the way through, which is a pretty big thing because most studies, it's really hard to get people to stick to doing a particular intervention. So the 3 different groups, the weight training group did 3 days a week of 8 different machines, 3 sets, 8 to 12 reps. That totals to about 72 working sets across the week. After their adherence was calculated, it was determined they did about 60 sets per week. So 72 prescribed and 60 sets a week actually done. The goal was to progress in weight, but not in reps or sets. The aerobic group did an equivalent of a calorically equated 12-mile run at about 65 to 80% VO2. The aerobic training ramped over 8 to 10 weeks and was prescribed 133 minutes total time per week on the aerobic training, and about 117 minutes a week was actually done. The combination group did a combined total of the aerobic training program and the weight training program together. So they did 6 days of exercise across the week. One thing was, the adherence rate for the aerobic and resistance training sessions for the combined therapy group was actually lower. It was about 81% for the weight training and 89% for the aerobic training. So this shows that whilst doing both, it was a little bit harder for them to stick to doing all of the sessions. So the nutrition that was captured was their self-reported data, which was shown to be about 2,000 calories a day. Self-reported data is never reliable, and we know that overweight and obese patients tend to overestimate their physical expenditure and underestimate their caloric intake. So we know it probably wasn't likely there. And if you equated their initial body weight to the ratio of kilocalories per kilogram, it comes out to being about 10.2 kilocalories per pound or 22 kilocalories per kilogram. Now that's a pretty low caloric intake, and if they maintain that, they would not stay around that weight over a 4-month, 8-month period. So the end result showed that the resistance training group grew about 1 kilo of muscle and lost only about 260 grams of fat. They had a waist circumference reduction of only 0.06 centimeters squared. The aerobic group gained in aerobic fitness and lost 1.6 kilos of fat, whilst only gaining 100 grams of muscle mass. They had a waist measurement reduction of 1.02 centimeters squared. The combined aerobic and resistance training program lost about 2.44 kilograms of fat and gained 800 grams of muscle mass. They had a reduction of 1.66 centimeters squared for their waist circumference. It's pretty high. So what does this sum up? Well, a few things in my opinion. Firstly, these individuals did not stick to the macros or calories that they reported within the study. If they had 10 calories per pound or 22 calories per kilo, would have had these guys in a massive deficit, and they, plus the training on top of that, would have seen massive reductions over a 4-month time period. Now, that's okay. It wasn't a nutritional study. It was a training study done to see what would happen there. But the self-reported data did not align up with what was actually happening because those changes in body composition aren't explained by that caloric intake. Number 2, it's more than likely that the resistance training had an increase in some of the hunger hormones or perceptions of hunger for the participants. They had the lowest amount of fat mass reduction and the highest amount of muscle mass reduction. This tells us that they had to have been eating a little bit more and generally in protein to get an increase in the muscle mass, and the reductions in fat mass show that they were likely the least in a deficit or the most in a surplus. And it would have been a small surplus, but it would have been just enough so that these gains were achieved. 3, the combined therapy actually saw the greatest reductions in fat mass and increases in muscle mass with the greatest changes in health markers. Whilst there is heaps of research to show that there are benefits for resistance training and aerobic training separately, it's really clear in this study that the combined therapy had the greatest effect on body composition and fat mass. However, you've got to keep in mind these guys were untrained and sedentary and obese, overweight in that category of 30 BMI. So the results are probably a little bit exaggerated for what you may see. However, if you fit into that category, it's totally cool. You can do these and have similar like results. Now, just remember, and we speak about this in other videos, the more you exercise or the leaner you get, the less these results would, the less likely these results you would get, just because of changes that happen in body composition, health markers, and your response to resistance training. What I want you to take away from this study is that you don't have to pick one or the other. You can do both. Or you don't have to do both. You can do the one that suits you. And if you don't have the time to do both, hell, you could just do alternating resistance training and aerobic training every time you have the opportunity to go to the gym or exercise. The idea isn't that you have to occlude one or the other and that there's one best way for fat loss, but inclusion of many different modalities is what's going to get you there a little bit faster. Now, obviously, this is only going to be more effective if it's coupled with good nutritional dietary advice and adherence, and that's a really big thing as well. You can't just do a training program and expect the same changes in body composition that would happen with diet and training combined actually have the greatest changes in body composition and the greatest reductions in fat mass. And that wraps up today's video. I hope you found it useful. If you did, make sure that you click the like and subscribe button. And if you want to check out some other cool stuff that we're doing, down in the description box below, you can check out the study that I've linked, as well as our links to Facebook and Instagram where you can see what's going on and find out more about our research review. Thanks, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll see you next time.